Yo, what's good, guys? I've got a quick trade recap for how we made about 2,500 in 2 minutes this morning. Before I get to it, if you are interested in working with me a little bit one-on-one, I have an opportunity for some of you guys. I have a Alpha Futures code that I'll put somewhere on the screen and in the description. And if you use my code, you can do a 30-minute one-on-one call with me. If you have any trading questions, questions about my strategy, or just general questions, and you want to do that, either use my code or you can message me on TikTok and we can talk about it and we'll get something set up. So with that aside, I'm just going to get to it. I'm going to make this a pretty quick one. It was a pretty simple trade today. So coming into this day, right, I want to be a little bit more defensive on some days like this because in a day like today, I didn't really have a super clear bias coming into the New York session. I would say I'd be slightly more bearish overall, and that was because we were tapping into this 4 hour gap with the 4 hour candle here. So I was thinking maybe we tap this gap and continue lower because we already came up, swept out a ton of liquidity and coming down. But at the same time, if you were to look at the hourly time frame this morning, we also had this hourly gap that had, got tapped into a handful of times here, started to push out of, showing a nice reaction that way. And then we also had this gap below that I had seen, right? We tapped into it once, made all this move, came back, tapped into it again, and then we're rejecting pretty hard. So I was a little bit mixed on whether or not I wanted to go long or short. And on a day like this, that's okay. You don't always need to know what's going on. It's okay to not have a super clear bias. You just need to know when you don't know, right? So I just wanted to wait for something to confirm a certain direction to me, and that's what I wanted to see for me to take a trade. So with all that aside, like I said, coming to the day, a little bit mixed on the bias, but I will show you what we ended up doing. So let me play it back here. So if I just go to like the 5 minute here, one thing that I notice is like sometimes I kind of like to mark out a couple of conditions. So on the higher time frame, I'm using that for my overall bias, and I'm using like the 5 and 15 minute. These are my favorite to just kind of look at what the current like more the more current price is doing. Like obviously the hourly and the 4 hour is more of a bigger time frame play, like the overall idea. This is more like what's going on right now on the 5 and 15. So in this case, this is the first fair value gap I'm kind of paying attention to. I noticed we also had like some news high up here, nothing crazy, but some red folder news high. So I wanted to see kind of, are we going to inverse this 5 minute gap or are we going to come down? This was like my first like just kind of thing that I'm looking at first idea, like, okay, are we going to respect this and push lower? Or are we going to inverse this and then maybe we'd come up to this level? So assuming that we tap into this and come lower, of course I'd look for a lower draw. So coming out to the hourly time frame, the first lower draw I had marked out was this one. You could also mark out this, which is like the swing point, but I kind of like to mark out the first draw in this area because we might sweep this and then reject. And then I also marked out this here. Now, for a trade like this, a lot of the time you want to focus on trying to target the first draw on liquidity for the day. Every time we take a draw on liquidity, we're not just going to keep pushing 500 points in one direction. So even though I'm trading along with the trend, eventually the trend has to stop and flip, right? The trend just doesn't go on forever. So once we take out a draw, the following draw after that's going to become a little bit less like lower probability. And then the following draw after that's going to be even less probability. So you want to be careful how you keep targeting draws, right? Like that. But in this case today, right, we tapped into this gap off open and then this candle just comes and takes the low. You could have almost looked into like mid candle going like this to target this low here, right? Because we tapped our one thing that we wanted to see happen and then started going down, showing that like we're going to probably be bearish. But the issue I have with a trade like this is like entering mid candle, you could definitely get manipulated out on the first candle of the day. So there's a ton of volume in this candle, so a little bit risky, but just an idea. So seeing that, after seeing a candle like this, I really don't want to be bullish, like not necessarily the entire day, but I really would want to see this whole move get like totally flipped around. Like we would have to see green candles trading all the way up here for me to flip to like a bullish bias, honestly. So after seeing that, I'm going to be more bearish. By the way, at this time, ES is really doing nothing. Like it was honestly kind of chopping, not looking great. So seeing this here, let's see, we had a couple candles. Now, one thing that I want to say is when I'm trading continuation, one like general idea, this obviously isn't going to apply every single time, but the general thing that I'm looking for is on like the 5 and 15 minute time frame, does our candle closure like close way above a liquidity point that we swept out or way below a liquidity point that we swept out. So in this case, let's say we wicked out this liquidity, right? We might not want to continue lower. If this 5 minute candle closed, right, wicked below and then ended up closing back up into this area, then we probably don't want to continue lower. But because this 5 minute closure, look how aggressive this was. To me, this basically confirmed the direction. I just need to see some sort of confirmation before I enter, right? But to me, like this direction is confirmed. I just wanted to see like a little bit of a better entry. But yeah, so I know that we're coming down off this. I don't think that we're going to reverse because, we close much below this liquidity point. It shows that we want to keep heading down, like there's a very strong downtrend. So in this case, I wanted to see some sort of retrace for an entry, but because we were dumping so hard, I really didn't think that I was going to be able to see like the typical like V-shaped movement, right? Where we get something like this, boom, 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 and then flip, right? So in this case, I actually set a limit order, and I don't remember exactly where it was. I have it marked out on my top step so I can show you, but it was somewhere around here because I was able to get a decent stop loss with this for like a 1 to 1.3. And it was just this idea of like the direction's already confirmed. I basically just need to get entered into this. And I thought that maybe we would take this and I'm not going to be able to catch like the typical continuation V-shape entry. So in this case, I did just set a limit order here. And also, if you look at the 5 minute, right, off of this previous 5 minute closure, I assume that we're going to have to upwick because this is a massive candle. So I just set my limit a little bit into this up here, right? Like something like this. And I ended up getting tapped in off of this candle, 737, and basically top tick this. This is like not my first ever, but pretty much like my first real top tick, if you want to call it that. Not really, because this is the top of the move, but we got entered in like really nice entry here. And then we just rode it down. I'm going to be honest, I did not close this for the entire TP, right? Because I trade with one mini, I would have closed for like 1,200 per account or 1,100-ish per account if I caught full TP, but I was trailing on this. I'm going to be honest, I took one break even this week for my first trading week back, and then I missed out on a trade either yesterday or the day before, and I really wanted to just end with a dub, so I was trailing pretty hard. So I first trailed for a winning day up in this area, and then once we took this low, I trailed to like even more. I don't know. I was trailing pretty hard on this one. So I ended up getting stopped out for like maybe 25 points. So somewhere around this area. So that led me to make, by the way, I did take the low. But that led me to make about $500 per account here. So 5 top step accounts, 500 per account, about 2,500. And it was a pretty quick trade. You can see this is pretty close to what the entry looked like. So really nice trade here. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Hopefully you did learn something. If you have any questions about this trade, comment them below and I'll help you out. And like I said before, if you are interested, if you use my code, you can get a 30-minute one-on-one Discord call with me and ask me questions. So thank you if you did make it to the end of the video. If you have any trading questions, like I said, comment them below and I hope to see you in the next video.